In 1998, I traveled for the first time to Vézelay, a place in the middle of France where they built a basilique for Mary Magdalene. And I was stunned when I saw the place. It's a beautiful basilique, one of the most beautiful there is. Um, it's kind of on the brink of Roman architecture going into Gothic architecture, but it still has the combination of both. Now, what struck me in that place was a story that I heard when entering the church, that it was burned down in 1120 with 1,200 people being burned in the church. And this was happening on the 22nd of July. Now, in all the stories and the history books, it's written down as an accident. But since it was on the 22nd of July, it started to ring alarm bells in my mind, because it is the name's day of Mary Magdalene. And in that time already, there was the start of the Inquisition, that all the people who followed the feminine, the divine feminine incarnated in this figure of Mary Magdalene, were persecuted. And this was maybe the first time that they just killed the people who followed her. So I wrote a book about it to set things straight. And that the church wasn't burned down by accident, but that they closed the doors and then they put fire in the church. And that's how people couldn't escape the church. Anyway, it set me on a long journey of following the feminine and seeing Mary Magdalene as an inspiration, as a source, as a muse. I started organizing Mary Magdalene festivals together with other people in the south of France, later in Spain, in Andalusia. And she really became like a red thread in my life. This feminine energy that is not ruled by words or books or the Bible, but more ruled by the heart, by your own feelings, by your own inner wisdom and your connection to the divine. So a completely different lineage altogether, actually, that is so needed in this time, because we have been tilting too much towards the masculine, too much towards structures, safety, security, rules, the Bible, all these things that gave us kind of a structure but left out the heart. And what we need so much in this time is the heart. Now, a couple of years ago, I gave a lecture about Mary Magdalene in the village Magdala, the place where she came from. And this is an old village on the Sea of Galilee. The Israelis call it the Kinneret. It's the name of a goddess. And I gave this lecture to 50 Israeli women. And that was quite amazing. First of all, to be a man talking about Mary Magdalene to women, but also as somebody who comes from a Catholic tradition, talking to Jewish people. And I was stunned because they didn't know anything about her. It was kind of unknown, of course, because their religion is focused on different stories, but not on the story of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. So they were very intrigued by this feminine figure. And for me, it felt as if I was bringing her back home, because she belonged to that tradition. She was a Jewish woman. She lived in the Holy Land. And actually, since then, something very interesting has been happening. I got to know more and more about the Jewish religion. I've been studying Kabbalah the last few years. It becomes more and more vivid to me. And I heard people over there are integrating more Mary, Mother Mary, and Mary Magdalene into their religion. So we are bringing pieces of the puzzle together. And I think that's just what is needed in this time. That we bring pieces of the puzzle of the Jewish story, the Islamic tradition, the Christian tradition, we bring them together, and then the larger picture comes into view. Now, interestingly enough, we wanted to organize in April this year, 2020, a gathering of the tribes at the Lake of Galilee. Now, in April, we couldn't do it because it was, of course, locked down by Corona. And we had a sentence that we used for this gathering of the tribes was the return of the feminine as the unifying force for humanity. And I think that is still the case at this moment, that this feminine force, both for men and women, is becoming stronger and stronger, and we start to unite with each other. We start to recognize that we're all in the same story, that we're all moving from this older patriarchal story in which we lived and survived and which has served its role. But it's ending, it's finished, we cannot go on. If we think about prolonging this normal world with the structures, technology, science, education, religion, all in this patriarchal, hierarchical way, we're doomed. That's becomes more and more clear. What we need right now is that we focus more on the heart, on our intuition, on our feelings, on our connection with each other, on what unites us and not what separates us. And of course, you see these separating energies becoming more and more powerful as well. People are set up against each other. Religions are set up against each other. Ways of thinking are set up against each other. We fall into the trap of us versus them. In any form, can be in a country, can be in your own community, but that's just what is hindering us. We need to understand we're all part of the same family. We're all part of the human race. There's no difference. When I travel all over the world and I give workshops, the one thing that struck me most is that we're all the same. There's some difference in culture and difference in clothing or eating habits or stories, but basically we all want respect, we all want safety, we want a place for our children to live, we want love, we want to have intimacy. So all these basic things are universal for all humans. And I think it's time that we start to recognize that we're all in the same boat. There's not somebody who rules us and they're the bad guys, or there's no enemy that's the bad guys, because we're all the same. Sometimes difficult to realize because we all have images or enemies in our mind, but it tells more about ourselves than about the others. So the best thing we can do is to connect with that other part, with the other. Okay, long story, but I think that's one of the messages of Mary Magdalene is to go inside, to look at your own wounds, to look at your own dark spots, your own shadow. Where is it that you become separated from yourself? And thus you bring separation into the world? Or where is your own inner fight? Or your own egoism? Or greed? And that's what you bring into the world. That's how you contribute to the separation and to the downfall of our society. So it takes a lot of inner work to understand where you are yourself, and from a different perspective you can bring love into the world and connection. But it takes work and discipline. So it's not fluffy love. Yeah, everything is love. No. We have to face the dark spots and the stuff that we're messing up, all of us. So I hope you feel your own connection to Mary Magdalene, and that this little movie made a little bit more clear. And I think in this phase of transformation towards December 21st, I think this feminine force, this unifying force, is amazingly important. Talk to you next time.